sketch. At this,
Yeah, I know.
at this time, we will do the land acknowledgement. How are we doing the land acknowledgement?
On video.
I'm going to introduce it, and then
All right,
So-
Associate Superintendent Ron Eberts.
This is.
normally, in a perfect world, we would have a group of students from Lindsay Thurber or maybe Central Middle here to do the land acknowledgement. Unfortunately, due to the situation, we don't have that ability. But fortunately, a couple years ago, we had a session for our First Nations, Métis, Inuit, Point people at the schools on developing personalized individual land acknowledgements and land recognition for their individual schools. And many of our schools have taken the opportunity to actually do a land acknowledgement. Today, for this particular meeting, I thought I would share with you West Park Elementary's land acknowledgement. They did a fantastic job. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, it is a really, I think, poignant expression and acknowledgement. So I'll let Colin press the play button and we'll acknowledge the land.
The land has a story to tell. Indigenous people, including the Siksika, Blackfoot, Free Nation, Tutina Nation, Stoney Dakota Nations, and Métis have shared stories. They celebrated and cared for the land for a very long time. Thousands of years. They lived here south of the Red Deer River, where West Park Elementary School is located. We are grateful for their care and deep respect for the land. A promise was made to share the land. Which means we're all part of the promise and part of the stories. The promise is called a treaty, which means we promise to share the land, take care of it, and only use what we need. All of us are treaty people. We will live in harmony and keep the promise to care for the land. North to south, east to west. Spring and fall, summer and winter. Whether we're old or young or in between. For as long as the grass grows, the sun shines in the sky, and the rivers flow. We gather together on the land. We remember the promise and say thank you. We are all part of the story. We are all treaty people.
course, we acknowledge the land in a spirit of truth and reconciliation.
Thank you so very much, Associate Superintendent Ron Ebert. And thank you for sharing that. As you had mentioned, we do usually have students here, and it's unfortunate that we do not today, but having an opportunity to see that, it actually made me really teary. So I appreciate having the opportunity to see that today. I'm gonna kind of go back. Usually our superintendent is joining us with these meetings. At this time, there is another meeting that his attendance is required at. So when that meeting is done, he will be joining us. At this time, I'd ask everyone to stand for the singing of our national anthem, O Canada. I'm not seeing our meeting minutes from our last meeting in our agenda, so I will go past approval of the minutes. In front of you is the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any additions, errors, changes that need to be made? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Trustee Waters, thank you. All those in favor? Carried. We will move on our agenda to 9.1, Alberta School Boards Association Recognition Awards. Deputy Dan Lauer.
Thank you very much, Chair Buchanan. I'm very pleased to be representing our Superintendent, Chair Erickson, as we present the Alberta School Boards Association Recognition Awards to our trustees. So during municipal election years, the ASBA acknowledges trustees across Alberta for their years of service. Trustees are eligible for this recognition if they've served a minimum of 2 years and the service, 2 terms, sorry, and the service does not have to be consecutive. So with that in mind, I'm going to do some recognition here, but I go a little bit off script because I think what could probably be a somber occasion, you know, as we say goodbye to people that are not running again, or who knows what the election brings. It could be somber, but I think we want to recognize in the spirit of how our trustees given their time and why they do this. Try to add a little bit of flair to it. So let's, I'm going to also change the order from the board memo and just go by increasing terms of service. So with that, then I'm going to acknowledge Trustee Nicole Buchanan. So Trustee Nicole Buchanan began her service in 2017 and has served 2 consecutive terms. As she began her terms, Canada was celebrating its 150th birthday, and the phrase, "Hey Alexa," was starting to be heard in homes across the world as smart speakers were first introduced that year. Since that time, Nicole's dedication and voice have continued to guide our division with the same spirit of progress and connection as those advancements. So thank you very much for your encouragement for this. Next, Trustee Kathy Peacock. Trustee Peacock has served 5 terms. Her service began in 2007, the year that YouTube was born. And the term, I'll Google it, had become mainstream in our society. Flip phones were everywhere, and Facebook was just starting to connect communities in new and different ways. Since that time, Kathy's steady leadership and dedication have helped our division grow through every single change. Kathy, congratulations. Next, Trustee Jim Waters. Trustee began the first of his 6 terms in 1998, just as his beloved Oilers had made it back to the promised land after 4 dismal years of not making the playoffs. A little startup called Google had just been founded, Jim, and it was changing how people would find information forever. Also that same year, the first module of the International Space Station was launched. Since that period of time, Jim, your steady leadership and commitment have helped our division navigate every new era with confidence and care. Thank you very much. I'd work the Oilers in somehow, Jim. Thanks. Thank you. Well, look at that. I can't follow the script actually. Trustee Diane McCauley. So Trustee Diane McCauley also began her 6 terms of service, but in 2004. And did you know in 2004, the iPods were brand new and Wikipedia had just launched, making sure that people shared false facts all across the world for years to come. So people were still renting movies at Blockbuster back in 2004, Diane. But since that time, we've had lots of changes. Your steadfast commitment and vision have remained a guiding light for our division. Thank you very much for your work. All right. And last but not least, and now this one played havoc because I learned in your time with us, terms of trusteeship changed from 3 to 4 years during.
So this is actually my 8th.
I was gonna say, it's
Yeah.
longer than.
Eighth year,
So,
third term.
well, great, because I'm saying 9. Like we had to look back and like, we looked at the 9. So we actually, I think they revised the, well, what we're doing again. This one says 9. We're going to give you more credits. You get past 8 and you can, yeah. So,
Good pension.
so last but not least, Trustee Ben Manning. My first thought was to say that when Ben's first of her 8 consecutive terms began in 1995, I still had a luxurious full head of hair. But that can easily be fact checked, and that wasn't true either. But in 1995, Canada began expanding internet access to schools and universities for the first time. Kind of neat. The first successful bone marrow transplant took place for sickle cell anemia and is now widespread. The Quebec referendum happened in that year, and Canada narrowly voted to stay together by 1%. And Celine Dion was at the height of her fame, sharing all her goodness with the rest of the world. So, Bev, through all those changes since your first term, your leadership, your caring voice has continued to anchor division. Congratulations on your 8/9 or 7. I believe the ASBA would like a photo of our recognition. We'll take it out there so we can send them and they'll know we did our job. I'll get that fixed.
Yes.
Wah, wah, wah.
Errors in the.
Sorry.
Oh, you need your certificate.
Yeah, I didn't want to get it dirty.
You can wave and say hi. Hi, Internet.
Oh, yes.
Last year was a good recording day.
It's not part of that. No. They don't get any of that.
Moving on in our governance agenda to 10.1, enrollment summary report. Deputy Dan Lauer, it is still your floor.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to take this opportunity without Superintendent Erickson here to expand upon my enrollment summary as I used to before you started bullying me into not doing that, but I think it's.
Aw.
That's not.
Remember the board issue?
So it's a bit somber news if you take a look at this. We are showing a decrease in our September 30th enrollment from year over year, from last year to this year, of 16 students. So I took a look back in the history that we actually have, and it is the first time we've seen our division decrease since 2005, except for the COVID year, except for 2020, when we saw, a bunch of people keep their kids at home. So it's been quite some time since we saw a decrease from the previous year in our division not growing. We kind of alluded to it last year, I think on September 30th, where we'd only grown by 6 students over the previous year. But it's something that we need to pay attention to, especially if you take a look at the decrease we've seen in our kindergarten and our elementary enrollment. And as you know, that's how we build our division going forward. And you see that this year, we had 59 less students in kindergarten than we had last year. And again, it's worrisome to us. I think the height that I could go back and see in 2017, we had 822 kindergartners and 189 pre-K for 1,011 of those students. And then in this year was 606 kindergartners and 116 pre-K, down to 722. So a decrease of 289 at the base of what we're building is troublesome for us, and something that we definitely need to pay attention to as we program and we inform our community about what we can provide their kids, and something that we're watching and that we're paying attention to. In the past, I talked about our new English as additional language learner intakes, and people are familiar with immigration and slowing down, and we are seeing the effects of that here as well. For example, we have decreased last year to 299 students introduced throughout the year from the previous year's 366. This time last year, we'd done 102 new intakes of students, but so far we've only done 45 new intakes. And so, each month when I present this to you, we see our division keep on growing each month. We're probably going to see less of a growth, moving along, and hopefully certainly not a decrease. But it's something that we have to pay attention to, and we have to plan for moving forward. But that's our enrollment summary as we begin. Those are official numbers going to Alberta Education for a fact.
Thank you very much. I see no hands raised for questions. We will accept the enrollment summary report for information. Thank you very much, Deputy Dan Lauer. Moving on to 10.2, PSBA report, Trustee Matt Gold.
Other than pay attention, vote, we haven't really heard anything from TSBA. We've had the advocate, that end of the month before, but there's been nothing, and I've been passing on messages I get as the rep. So I'm assuming those will keep flying over the next, several weeks. So that's the unreport report.
Vice Chair McCollum.
Matt, thank you very much for being a rep on PSBAA. I've appreciated your reports. I will miss the entertainment value that you always bring when you give the reports, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will accept that report as information from Trustee Matt Gould. Moving on to 10.3, staffing report. Associate Superintendent of People Services, Greenport. I suck at it.
It's all right. Forced to sit. So yeah, you have the reports in your package. So I think just a couple of things, and maybe just to tack on to Deputy Lauer's commentary. In this particular snapshot that we're giving you, we are actually showing an increase in our total number of teachers from last year to this year. But as that enrollment, if those trends continue, we're obviously going to also see that a ripple effect of that trickle into some right sizing in our staffing contingent. But in this case, you can see definitely a decrease in our total staff from 1427 to 1416 from September 1st, 2024 to September 1st, 2025. And anytime we do a report like this, just like the student enrollment, it's a snapshot, and staffing is dynamic. Also, the way that we pull, or the way that we look at our staffing, includes our people that are on leaves as well as those that are replacing them. So sometimes we have a position where we actually are counting 2 people for the same position because we have someone on a leave and somebody replacing. So just to kind of provide a little bit of context for you there. We did have the addition of the 0.6 academic intervention teachers at our elementary and middle schools for this year. So that did add some additional FTE into our overall contingent. If I go down to the end of the first page there, in terms of the EAs, and I just wanted to provide a little context there because as you know, we hired a significant number of EAs last year with the Jordan's Principal grant funding. And so, many of those hires would have happened or become active in our system after the September 1st reporting that we would have done last year for you. So I just wanted to sort of point that out if you're wondering why it wasn't a more significant decrease in the overall number of EAs. It's more to do with timing, but just for interest's sake, like I did share that June 2024 and that actual number. So that kind of gives you a sense, I think, too, over the course of the year where we do have that ebb and flow and sometimes we have additional funds that become available for different reasons, like Jordan's Principal last year, which can certainly augment the number of EA staff that we have.
I just have a question from a trustee Waters.
So the difference is 75, and that's actually because of the Jordan Principal, is that correct?
Well, some of those would be Jordan's Principal, and that's actually a June 2024 stat.
Right.
So we hired roughly 45 EAs under Jordan's Principal for the 24-25 school year. Of course, because of the way that grant funding changed, we weren't able to retain many of those positions. So
Our actual is 304. You can say.
well, the 304 would have been at the end of the year in June 2024. So a year and a bit ago. But just to kind of give you that context, I guess, of sort of what that can look like from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. We have currently, as of September 1st, 36 individuals on extended disability. So just as a refresher, extended disability is coverage by our insurer when one of our employees is on a medical leave for over 90 calendar days and has medical information that would support them not being in a position to be well enough to return to work. So that stat has stayed fairly consistent from year to year over the past several years. In terms of leaves of absence, 61 leaves of absence in the 24-25 school year, again, fairly consistent with what we've seen over the past 3 years, and that those include mat leaves, personal leaves, deferred salary leave, and professional improvement leaves. 55 new hires added as of September 1st to our roster, which included at that time 22 new Red Deer Public teachers, 14 of those on probationary contracts. So that's a 1-year contract for a position that isn't replacing anyone. And it's for the full school year, and temporary would be a contract that's attached to somebody who's on a leave. That may be for a full year, but that could also be anywhere as low as 20 teaching days. So that certainly has evolved since September 1st with different things that have happened with our overall staffing. But we actually do have over 30 teachers participating in our new teacher mentorship group. So we had them in earlier in September, and we had 33 brand new teachers. And so some of those might not be reflected in the 22 new hires because they may have been with us on a shorter term contract last year. So when we bring our new teachers in for our mentorship group, we bring in anyone who has been on less than 1 year of contracted services. So some of those would have not been reflected as new hires because they were with us last year for a short period of time.
And sorry, Trustee Waters.
Sorry, I'd like to go back to number 1, if you could, where it seems that 2024, there were 36 individuals on EDB, and then 23 goes to 38, and 36 in 2025. So these are long-term?
Yes, so those might not be the same people.
Okay.
So that would just be the number of our employees as of September 1st in those years that had that status of being on extended disability. Some of those 36 or 38 people may be some of the same employees if they've been, on an extended leave because of their medical circumstances. And some of them would be different individuals, some of whom would have been cleared to return to work at some point during those timelines. I'll just move down to classified staff, 61 new hires in 24-25. And the 57 for the year before that, so reasonably consistent there with classified and QP. And lastly, in terms of retirements processed, so in 24-25, we had 29 retirements that we processed in that school year. And that's quite consistent with the year before that at 30 and 34 the year before that. So we're sort of seeing that sort of consistent number of people that are deciding to move on to the next chapter with their retirement. Any questions about anything there?
Trustee Gould?
Well, not really a question, just a comment. So as we were saying at lunch, I was on the committee that was there when you were applying for the position and stuff. And so it's been great for 3 years, right?
Yeah, this is the start of my 4th year, yeah.
When you're getting ready to retire. So I just want to say that I've really enjoyed working with you, the conversations we've had, and we shared some schools, I think, through 1 or 2 of the years and stuff. So I really love being able to get to know you a little bit and spend time with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. And I certainly wish both you and Trustee Manning all the best. And it's been a pleasure working with this board and with you in particular. I wish you all the best in whatever life holds. That's the next step here for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for the staffing report. I see no one else with any questions. We'll accept that as information. Thank you. We are going to go back in our agenda to the meeting minutes, approval of the meeting minutes. Being handed out in front of you, you will have the meeting minutes from September 10th. I will wait till everyone has a copy. And I will allow everyone to view those meeting minutes. Are there any changes, additions, errors? Seeing none, when you are ready, I would be looking for a motion. Trustee Manning?
In the approval of agenda
Minutes?
section of the minutes, I was against that. That's the only thing I see.
Trustee Gould?
Just a question about 10.9, the motion to pause enforcement of the fairness and safety in sport. We've sort of discussed that and Trustee Summers ended up taking it to ASBA for the Zone 4 and stuff, and we'd approved kind of a change of stuff, but we had talked about that we weren't really allowed to pause the implementation of the fairness in sports legislation and stuff, so I'm not sure how that's reflected in the minutes because it had us all saying.
Yeah, the motion was never actually made.
Oh,
was it?
right, okay, so.
I don't think the motion was actually made.
No, I think that we just then move to
Yeah.
a more open
I think you
discussion,
went
saying,
through the
you
motion.
brought it up to then say,
Yeah.
what about ASBA? And a different venue for a conversation about it, so,
So there was no motion.
no.
So that needs to be,
So it says carried, but there was really no motion, it was shifted to a different conversation.
Could have been a discussion.
Yeah, it turned into discussion, and was brought up at ASBET, the zone 4, so.
They retracted the motion.
So it was.
Yeah, she did.
It was rescinded and it does reflect that in the minutes, but in the motion. But it may not be correct.
Oh, just the word, oh no, it was be rescinded just at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're right, so that is there's the motion, we rescinded it, we all voted to rescind it, so that's what the unmotion motion was. Okay, yeah, sorry. False alarm.
So I would be looking for a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Trustee Mann? All in favor? Carried. I move on to 10.4, Technology and Information Services Report, Associate Superintendent Ronnie Burks.
Thank you. I'm gonna come to the front. I've got slides.
I knew it.
I'll say hi to all my fans at home. Normally, thank you, Marcel. Thank you again for allowing us to have the opportunity to share some of the things that we've been doing over the past year, and also share some of the opportunities and challenges that we've had over that time and moving forward. Normally, my certified director of educational technology, Tracy Word, would be here, but unfortunately, she is unable to be here today. I was going to make one of those giant tennis faces of her, but I think she called around to all the camera faces and said, "Do not do that." So it's just me today. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're sort of framing our presentation to you a little bit differently this year. We're doing it in opportunities and challenges. And in the main areas kind of that are kind of the big areas that we worked on this past year: cybersecurity, our instructional infrastructure, the new Protection of Privacy and Access to Information Acts. We talked a little bit about our IT specialists, artificial intelligence, and Brightspace and Veretta. I'm also going to talk about two software applications. To begin with, I just want to kind of share our team. We have a very dedicated team of IT specialists, network administrator, and information specialists. I have a picture of our group here and the name, so I just wanted to share that with you because we don't get to see, you guys probably don't see them a lot. They're in schools most of the time. We have some folks that work at our central services all the time, but for the most part, our IT specialists are in and out throughout the time. So that's our group. And to begin with, I want to jump into cybersecurity, which is interesting because cybersecurity, of course, has been around for years and years and years. But in the K-12 domain, really became an issue around 2019, 2020, when we were required to have cybersecurity insurance. If you remember way back when we did our first survey out of the USIC boards, that's the Urban School Insurance Consortium. I believe there's 13 or 14 boards as part of USIC, and we were second last in our cybersecurity preparation, I suppose. In that time, we've dedicated a lot of time, effort, and resources to improve where we are. And I will share our report card in a moment, but our recent report card does put us third among USIC boards with a 92% rating. Very, very high. And also, when I get to that slide, I'll share some of the other benefits of it. But one of some of the advantages, some of the opportunities we have in regular public schools is I do strongly believe our staff are much more cyber aware than they were even 5 years ago. Certainly our cybersecurity awareness training has some to do with that. Our sound judgment and or poor judgment and common sense videos have a little bit of humor with it, but do provide a very good message. And we find that because then we follow up that training with a phishing test of some sort. And most of the time, our staff demonstrate that they're very, very strong in that area. We do, unfortunately, sometimes catch people that, going back a couple of years, at Starbucks at Christmas time, phishing attempt. People were very eager to open give credentials for a Starbucks gift card, but most of the time our staff is doing very good. It's a good opportunity. Also, we continue to implement a lot of best practices towards keeping our division cyber secure, whether that's things like implementing multi-factor authentication, not just on staff, but even on devices. As an example, you can't, if you were somehow even able to access some of our servers or our routers and firewalls, there's dual factor authentication on those, things like that. You can't just log into something without having a second factor. So things like that, we're much better now than we were several years ago. Our IT specialists and information specialists spend a lot of time meeting, well, at least once a week, but even informally discussing how we can again become even more secure than we are now. Things like, actually I'm going to jump to the challenges because that is a great segue. Penetration testing is another area to help us become more cyber aware. What a penetration test is a third party outside of regular public schools, basically, for lack of a better description, attempts to infiltrate our network, our systems, and they do so in order to provide us with a report to say, here's a list of the 25 areas that we were able to compromise during our investigation, and they would give us the report in order for us then to continue to move towards improving those areas. The reason that I have it under the challenge is it's exceedingly expensive. We are currently waiting for quotes, so we've reached out to a couple of commercial vendors to see what that might cost us. From what we've heard from other school jurisdictions, $20,000 is kind of a starting point, and depending on how thorough of a job you want, it could become more expensive. So again, in the K-12 environment, it's not like we're Cisco where we can just raise our prices and pay for improved penetration testing, because it's very difficult for a K-12 school jurisdiction to challenge, to be able to become more cyber aware on a limited budget. Another challenge that we're having is that continuing to make sure that our hardware and our software are updated in order to be compliant. Over the past year and a half, we knew that Windows 10 was becoming end of life in November of this year. So we spent a considerable amount of time and effort and resources to ensure that our desktop computers were either Windows 11, that they could be upgraded, or the ones that could not were replaced with Chrome devices, or were transformed into a Chrome device. It is possible to convert a Windows PC to a Chrome-based device, in essence, giving you more life for that device. So we have spent the last 2 summers spending a lot of time and resources to do that. One of the challenges in that is, again, the technical expertise and the time needed to monitor and always keep up on cybersecurity. The bad guys just keep getting better. It's very lucrative if you are a bad guy, not so lucrative to be a good guy. So it becomes very difficult, again, for a school division of our size with a staff of 13, counting me, to be on top of everything. So that is certainly a challenge when we're talking about cybersecurity.
Are we currently insured?
We are, sorry, yeah, about 2 years ago, we got our insurance back. Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, we had lost our cyber insurance, we have been for the last 2 years. So I'm correct, Colin, is that?
Okay.
That's correct.
Yes.
Is it expensive? She asked.
I don't know.
It's not expensive compared to
Compared to what?
having to pay out.
Yes, that would be true, yeah. As an example, there's no specific figures have been released, but again, rumors. But the power school was breached in December of 24. Rumors are that they paid $50 million to get that data back, and there was no guarantee that the data actually was given back.
And what the insurance would probably have been 45 million?
Power schools, and they would have been insurance.
I think it's somewhere around 75,000 a year.
So again, it is, we have a lot of opportunities and I feel very, very proud. So I'll go to the next slide.
You have
Of-
another
of-
trustee with a question.
Oh, sorry,
Trustee
sorry.
Roberts.
You know, your department, it's amazing what you can do in the time that you do it. It almost seems like it's a maze. You just keep running and running and running and hope that you don't hit that brick wall at the end.
That's a very good analogy. It is again, the expertise part that I mentioned. To become the more cyber secure you are, the more complex it becomes. And then again, we're competing with, actual, for-profit companies that pay people to do that. So it's difficult again with a small team to keep on top of this, certainly.
Yeah, and you buy a computer and as soon as you get home, it's out of date. You guys, it's just amazing what you can do. Thank you for that.
And you can see a good segue to this is the report card that our most recent report card from the spring of this year, 2025. And you can see our percentages really, 92%, third best, which is excellent. But to me, what I think is the highlight of this is if you look at all the other school jurisdictions in USIC, there was only one that did not have a single red. Certainly we have a number of orange areas that we're aware of and we continue to work towards. But Red Deer Public Schools did not have any red in our report card. So we're very, very pleased about that. And again, I can't take any of the credit for that. I have an incredibly dedicated team that spends a lot of time working together and working towards making sure that everything that we do is cyber secure as we can. And the decisions that we make often are going back to that previous slide, resource related. We just can't afford to be as cyber secure as we can. And to be honest, in the K-12 sector, it's exceedingly difficult. Speaking of firewalls and routers and things, our instructional infrastructure. Again, a lot of opportunities. Our network, you remember starting in 2020, we were upgrading our network. It was a 3-year project. Our network is exceedingly complex, but the beauty, the flip side of being exceedingly complex is we have the ability to do things with our network that we have never been able to do before. For example, just a quick example now, when a new vendor comes aboard, like say a new building management system, whether it's Siemens, Johnson's Controls, something like that, when they implement new systems, almost always nowadays, they are able to be connected to a network and then monitored remotely from out, not being on the site. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that it's secure. Going back to cybersecurity, our network is situated in such a way that we are able to put a vendor piece of equipment on the network and it be completely isolated and segregated. So nobody except the actual 2 or 3 or 4 people that need access to that particular device has access to it. Doesn't matter if you're in the division, you're outside of the division. Doesn't matter if you're sitting right beside it with a network port. Our network has that completely isolated and segregated. Before 2020, we would not be able to do that. Those business management systems, those key fob systems, things like that have nothing to do with Red Deer Public specifically, but they're on our network. If one of those were compromised, they would have full access to the network. Whereas now we are able to keep those segregated. Another opportunity is our instructional technology refresh strategy. Since 2012, when we started converting to become more of a Google and a Chrome school division, we've been able to increase or decrease our device to student ratio to under 3 devices, modern devices or 3 students to 1 device. That again, not perfect, not 1-to-1, but to be honest, I don't think 1-to-1 is a reasonable expectation because many times those devices will sit idle. Whereas I believe at our current level, our schools have enough modern devices that when a student needs to access one, they're able to do so. And we continue every year to do that instructional technology refresh. So a great opportunity for our students. And it becomes more and more important, as I'll see later, we have more and more software tools that students must use, even for things like completing diploma and virtual achievement tests. On the other hand, the challenge is increasing redundancy and the complexity does come at a cost. So we have to balance what we want to be able to do and provide services to our students and our staff with what we can do with what we have. Another challenge related to that is our cloud hardware, our firewall hardware, age faster than we can refresh them. We have, I should have checked with Robert for the specific number, but I believe we have 8, 9, 10 different firewalls at different various stages of our network to protect traffic, not just traffic from our division going to the internet, but actually traffic going between sites. We have a very robust network, as I mentioned. We can actually have a site go down. For example, our network is distributed between Lindsay Thurber, Essential Services, Hunting Hills. We have disaster recovery, we have backups, we have network connectivity coming in different areas. We can actually lose a site and continue working with our redundancy. But in order to have those firewalls and our cloud infrastructure where we put all our servers, it becomes challenging. So what we try to do is use a cascade model. We replace the oldest or the sort of most important equipment, and then we shuffle that down to replacing that oldest equipment gets into areas where the least opportunity for, say, a bad actor to be able to access it and exploit. Some of those, when I talk about isolated and segmented, we'll put like the oldest technology there where it's exceedingly difficult for someone to access it. But it does create problems because, as equipment needs to be refreshed, there's more equipment than we have the ability to refresh it. Related to that, it even happens in the classrooms. And I'll use our smart boards as an example. For the past 6-7 years, we've been trying to replace smart boards with either projectors or with interactive televisions, or televisions like the one here. We, of course, don't have the ability to do the entire division, so we try to do 10, 15 a year. Some schools have the opportunity with their own budgets to replace some of their own. But what we find is happening is the schools that don't have that ability, and faster than we can get to them from a division point of view, their devices become more difficult to use. With Smart being a good example. This summer, when I talked about replacing Windows 10 with Windows 11. Smart, they themselves they don't make smart boards anymore. They have interactive devices similar to a television. So smart boards, they don't understand the new technology. So we have a number of teachers had their Windows 10 machine replaced with either Windows 11 or a Chromebook, and now the smart board doesn't work interactively anymore. And of course, I understand from a classroom perspective, that's extremely frustrating because they're used to be able to touch the screen and do what they need to. They can't anymore because we were able to replace their device, but we weren't able to replace their smart board. So that's another challenge that we have is doing the best we can to make sure that our equipment is up to date, but balancing that with not interfering with what the teachers have to do. So it's certainly a challenge that we're continually working to work on. I just wanted to share this year for our instructional technology refresh. We added Chromebooks to Annual Gate Essential, ECU, and Vista Grande for a total of 350 new Chromebooks for those schools. Some of you might not know this, but when we do the high schools, we don't actually replace our instructional devices. Our high schools and our compliance program as well have unique needs that go beyond just replacing Chromebooks for devices. So for those, when Hunting Hills, Lindsay Thurber, or the Pines have tech refresh years, we simply do a budget transfer, and then they're able to deal with their own technology needs. Sometimes that's, for example, at Lindsay Thurber a few years ago, they purchased high-end hardware for their e-sports program. Those computers are exceedingly expensive, not something you would just use it sort of as a classroom computer. So they were able to access some of their refresh money to do things like that. And then they just do a cascade inside their own building. So again, you can see a decent amount of budget transfer to our high schools so they can continue refreshing their instructional technology. And again, this is specific to things that will be in front of a student, that a student will use, not administrative or not teaching hardware. I also wanted to talk about what used to be FOIP, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. As I'm sure most of you know, that was repealed or rescinded, in May, and 2 new acts brought out, the Access to Information Act and the Protection of Privacy Act. I just wanted to share that because a lot of our time is spent getting ready there is a deadline for when we have to have converted our internal processes to these new systems. The good news is, from an access to information point of view, very little has changed from a K-12 perspective. Most of the changes are procedural and outside of the K-12 realm in that respect. The protection of privacy area, on the other hand, quite a few things that we'll have to work on and implement. Privacy by design being the first. Now school divisions must embed privacy protection directly into any new program services or information systems that we implement. So that's something like we weren't aware of that before when we tried to be privacy aware, but now it is mandatory. As part of that, all school divisions must have a privacy management program, and that must be implemented by June 11th of 2026. Sort of the Coles Notes version of what a privacy management program is. There must be an overt program in your school division that is in place to identify, monitor, and ensure that privacy is protected. So that's something that we'll be doing. Right now we're actively waiting for other school divisions to move ahead on this, so then we can cooperate with some of our partners that are doing this. And in this case, I'm really looking towards I have colleagues in the public and in Calgary Public that have full-time people that do that for their job. So they are very helpful, and that's what we're waiting for. Privacy impact assessments, we've been doing sort of we have been doing, so when you buy new software or subscribe to a new software, for example, Brightspace is a good example. With Brightspace, we have to do a privacy impact assessment, so we have to evaluate, for example, where's the data located? Who owns the data? One of our practices is that Red Deer Public Schools will not advocate ownership of our data. Some software companies, when you sign up with them, they take ownership. So obviously, it doesn't stop you from working, but should you cease to use them as a vendor, they own your data. We don't allow that. So when we do, when a new software comes on, or when people are investigating new software, we do a privacy impact assessment. But they were optional before. Now they are mandatory, and all privacy impact assessments must be recorded and stored. So that is a change. Currently, our privacy impact assessments were, I would say, cursory. We would do one, but we would look just for the information that was important to us. Whereas now we have to be a little bit more in depth on those. And lastly, which I don't think is going to be too much of a big deal, the school divisions must inform all individuals if their personal information is going to be used in an AI tool of some kind. In K-12, I don't know how, I guess we're going to find out over the next year or so. But for the most part, we don't use AI individuals. For example, a good example would be, if I wanted to, for our English as an additional language students, I wanted to record, have myself reading some instructions, and then someone can click, I want to see this in French, I want to see Ron talking German, I want to see Ron talking Arabic. If I was, I'd have to give consent to do that. So things like that would be an example of those automated systems and alerting people. But again, I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal. So those, again, I just wanted to share that with you because those are things that we are working on this year as well. Our IT specialists, the opportunities is we have a great team offering frontline support to our schools. We did a realignment this year to try to match our IT specialists' strengths with different schools, things like that. We spent a lot of time ensuring that our workstations at different schools are the same, so there's not inequities between our schools. They spend a lot of time deploying new hardware, decommissioning old hardware, keeping all that information. So a lot of great things that they're doing. But as a challenge, as we expand the responsibility of our IT specialists, it does become very thin. So our IT specialists know a lot about a whole bunch of things, but it's not very deep. And again, the reality is we just don't have the staff to have a cloud-based specialist and a server-based specialist, a cybersecurity-based specialist. So all of our team members have to have expertise in all of those areas. So that becomes an issue. I talked about our transition from Windows 10 to 11. That has taken a lot of their time. So in some cases, some schools feel that work orders are building up. Our folks are trying their best. And again, they spend a lot of time trying to be innovative, trying to extend the life of that instructional hardware that I talked about earlier. So again, we can stretch our resources as much as we can for as long as possibly we can. So again, it's an opportunity. They're doing a great job. There certainly are some issues that we have to deal with. AI, I'm going to speed up a little bit because I don't want to go too long. But the great news and the opportunity is last year we engaged with a number of vendors, landed on Magic School as our division sponsored artificial intelligence software. I believe if you remember last year, you had an opportunity to engage with a grade 6 Athenian student from ancient Greece. That was one example of what Magic School can do on the student side. There's a plethora of things that Magic School also provides on the instructional side. Being able to integrate, for example, things like high impact teaching strategies into lesson plans, creating divisions templates that can be shared amongst teachers. There is a whole host of advantages. And you can see on our statistics, just since implementing in the spring, we have 651 staff that have been using Magic School in over 23,000 generations. A generation meaning some new tool or some new device or new idea that was created through the AI. Just a lot of challenges with AI. First being different perspectives on the role of AI. We still do have some folks that view AI as something that should be blocked and cordoned off and not accessible for students. So it's difficult, and we're trying to increase our PD, offering a lot of PD to teach people exactly how AI can be used to help us, be a companion alongside us, as opposed to the old, like the 4 or 5 year old perspective of it being something to cheat with, as opposed to someone to help you. And again, that's talking about rethinking our instructional practices. It will, I believe, change the way we teach. I think for the better. Being able to, in my lesson plan, if I'm a grade 6 teacher, to say, I also need you to show me 3 ideas to teach this outcome for someone that's 2 grade levels below and also 1 grade level above my grade 6. So then it'll come up with options for you to do that. So rather than me as a teacher spending hours and hours and hours trying to think of or researching or coming up with a way to teach this to my low students or my extremely high students, AI can be an assist to help me with that.
Thank you, Ron. I like how you were talking about AI and how it can assist. And as we know, the diversity in the classrooms is something that is, on a lot of people's mind right now. So your example that you gave resonated with me. I want to talk about the students, though, that are using AI. And is there something that you could foresee that the board is going to have to tackle in regards to a policy when a student is using AI to finish an assignment?
Well, we already have an admin procedure on AI, and it revolves around this ethical use of technology generally. So just like we already have a student conduct admin procedure that talks about, it has ethics sort of baked into it, and AI is just a part of that. So whether I'm cheating by writing notes on a piece of paper and slipping into my sleeve, or whether I'm cheating using AI, the issue is cheating, not AI. Because I'm not gonna go to the example, but the issue is how are you using AI? If you're using AI as an assistant to help you, for example, to be one of the tools that Magic School has is you can create someone to bounce ideas off. So it won't give you an answer, but what it'll do is it will ask you 3 questions in return. So if I'm having an issue and I'm saying like, I just can't figure out, I'm trying to get little Chad to read different text. He's only reading mystery novels and I want to expand. What should I do? And instead of the AI saying, well, you can suggest these things for little Chad, it'll say, well, have you considered bringing Chad to the library, or have you considered asking Chad what his friends are reading? So you have that conversation, so something like that, right? So the AI is being used as to brainstorm, to throw ideas off of. Because sometimes, and I think we've all been there, right? Sometimes the answer is inside you. You just need to talk it out.
Yeah.
So that would be an example of using AI as a tool, just to give you someone to talk with.
So is it cheating if a student is asked to write a 1,000-word essay on the War of 1812, and that's what they put in AI, GPT chat? It creates something for them, and all I do is cut and paste and.
Well, definitely, because that would be no different than going to Wikipedia and copying the War of 1812 and pasting it in, right? So
can the teachers, do they have the ability to know that this is AI generated or not?
well, if I'm a student, certainly I could say, I could write something and say to the AI, can you read this over and give me some tips on what I can do better? Or I could tell AI to write it. If I'm a student, I might want to say, can you write this as if I was a grade 11 student and not a college professor? And you will rewrite it.
Yes.
So the nice thing about that is the student would have to have some information to be able to prompt the AI to make this creation their own. So at the very least, they would have had to have read a whole bunch of the War of 1812 to say, ooh, can you change paragraph 3 where they're talking about, Wolf and Montcalm, and I would never use those words. So can you make that, a little bit less formal?
Okay.
So even the student is going to be interacting with their stolen content, which, again, is it fully researched? Probably not, but they're interacting with it. So I would say there is some learning, as opposed to, I'm going to copy and paste Wikipedia and turn that in.
Yeah.
Well, then they've invested no effort. In terms of whether the teacher knows, as a teacher, I also know my students. So
Sure.
If all of a sudden little Chad is providing me an encyclopedia and normally he gives me 2 paragraphs, I'm going to suspect
Sure.
that's something.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Trustee Waters?
Sorry, I'll get you back. Ron, you said earlier on that your staff is thinning out. How much more in a budget would you need to do what you need? And the reason I'm asking that is because we all know technology changes. So as much as we're trying to get ahead, we're leaving some schools over there that we can't complete, and they're gonna get further behind. So is this something that can we eventually win once we're ahead of it? Or is it something we're always gonna keep fighting?
Yeah, and unfortunately, there is no magic number. There is no magic number. Ideally, I mean, in a perfect world, like even I guess you ask CDE that has, a team in every area where I have like a person, I have a team of people, even they would say it's not enough. I think it's just, but again, I can't give you a great answer other than obviously having more resources, more folks, more technology for them to use is better, but there's no panacea, there's no magic answer. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer.
Trustee Summers?
So does Magic School link up with Brightspace at all? Is there a relationship
You can
there at all?
use, they're not, Brightspace and Magic School they're not interwoven with each other, but you can use Brightspace, or you can use Magic School with your Brightspace assignments, where the teachers do an assignment. Like that might be my next slide. I'll just go right there. So we are fully implemented. So this past school year, we completely did our rollout, all schools using Brightspace. We have a platform for sharing from the teacher's point of view. We have students accessing assignments, submitting assignments, the number of tools that are being used, like creating assignments, quizzes, discussion boards, portfolios, especially at the elementary school, providing feedback, banks of resources that teachers can access and share across the division. All of that is available. Included in that is how you can use Magic School in that, because when a student is logged into the Brightspace, they still have access to their Magic School tools. So if they're working on an assignment in Brightspace, they can bring in that Magic School piece. There are certain challenges with Brightspace still, building division-wide capacity, and it's like anything. So even though we have the tools and we offer the PD, some teachers prefer not to use it. So those teachers, of course, as other teachers move farther ahead, and those teachers are staying in the same spot, there is a gap. And we notice that from the student point of view, because then the student in one classroom where a teacher's using Brightspace very actively, then that student goes to another classroom and expecting a similar experience and might not get it. So we do see that is a challenge, but I think that's a challenge for any technology, generally speaking. Some people really embrace it and shoot ahead. Other people, use it sort of occasionally, time to time, and then the other people that really resist and drag their heels. And that is a challenge. We try to work on that from a division. And that's Tracy herself spends a lot of time doing PD, going into schools, working shoulder to shoulder with teachers for the ones to help them move along. Also, when I talked about it's so much of what I say is related. I'm talking about some of the hardware. We stretch it out for as long as we can. But the problem with that is the new software and the old hardware don't work well together. So we certainly have Chromebooks that are 4, 5, 6 years old, 7, 8 years old, that just you can't work Brightspace with it. It just doesn't work. The browser itself can't understand what's happening on the back end, and it just doesn't show up. So it looks like something's wrong with Brightspace, right? You get weird things happening on the screen when in fact it's the hardware. So that is a challenge, is to make sure, and we always try to say that depending on what you're doing, if you're just word processing, you can use your old Chromebooks. If you're using Brightspace, make sure that you're using your newest Chromebooks that you have in the building. But again, some schools, I'll use Glendale as an example, as their name suggests, they use technology significantly. So it's very possible that all of their more modern Chromebooks are being used, and someone might be trying to access Brightspace on a device that just can't access it. So that is certainly a challenge. And it's not just Brightspace, PowerSchool, Google, Breda, which I'm going to talk about momentarily. All of the new software, when they create it, they only make it backwards compliant so far, and you're usually maybe 3 or 4 versions, and it becomes a challenge for us.
Trustee Gold?
No, I just have a quick question that sort of leads back from before. So during the strike, is your team actually able to do some catch up in areas that you might have been falling behind before?
Oh, absolutely, definitely, yeah. Our folks, and they're especially on the cybersecurity side, I mean, all areas. Like, we're definitely trying to clean up any tickets that were open, that were lingering, doing that things. So there's an opportunity there as well. Breda, I'm just going to talk about briefly. It's the software that is used to access diploma exams, provincial achievement tests. There's also field tests that can be done through it, and also practice tests. Last year, most of our students did their provincial achievement tests, grade 6 or 9, using Breda. This upcoming year, we're moving to diplomas. We're strongly encouraging our high schools to use it. I believe most will. There'll be some situations where there's an accommodation that's needed that Breda doesn't have the ability to accommodate. That we still might have some paper and pencil use. For the most part, it's been going well. The reviews have been going well. The technology from a network, there was some concerns when people were rolling out Breda that you got 400 people at Hunting Hills hitting at the same time, it won't work. what we actually found out was that the network use of RETA is very, very small, so there was no network problems. Certainly, on the challenges side, when you're doing a high-stake exam, we did have one student who, and we can't figure it out, they did apparently lose everything that they worked on. So that, of course, they were able to then, they had the extra time, they were able to do their work on paper and pencil, but, you know, when we look at the number of students that used it, and we did have a student that did lose work, the percentage is fantastic, but it is something to keep, I guess, abreast of. There is limited practice exams available, especially for the lower grades. So what some of our teachers are doing is you can use the practice exam that's there as a template and then create your own. So they're actually writing, they have a test in front of them and they're just using it to answer. But that's going to get better as the years go on. And of course, the biggest part for the challenges is getting teachers to trust the system and use the system and give students the opportunity. But we're very pleased. Again, Tracy has done a lot of work. She's gone into our middle schools, into our high schools, worked with teachers, worked with classrooms, with RETA. So we're very, very confident that when our diploma exams are being used in January, we have diplomas coming up in November, but I think most of those, there's just a small number, but in our big rollout in January, that vast majority of our students will be using RETA. And, oh, sorry.
So how do the students access it?
They'll log in, so they'll be given credentials, and then they log in, and then that becomes their session during that time.
Yeah, like backing way up. So we have our server, our main server. So is that the only place that we're holding our information? We also have it on the cloud.
Yeah, so we have very few, relatively speaking, physical servers in Red Republic now. A vast majority of our servers are cloud-based, meaning that they exist in a cluster of servers that are virtual. It's very pricey, actually. In fact, we're switching vendors. We had been using VMware, which is kind of the pinnacle of virtual software, just too expensive for us. Now we're looking at other options. But what that software does is you install it on a number of servers that all they do is provide storage for these virtual servers to exist. And then that's where we build our servers. So again, a vast majority of our servers are virtual in nature. And it gives us the ability to decentralize them, move them. So if, say, think of a room with, you see on TV where you have like banks of just hard drives. We have a smaller version of that at a couple of our schools, Lindsay Thurber and Hunting Hills, and a really small one here at Central Services. And we have the ability to say, we're firing up a server that does X, Y, Z as a database. Maybe Dave is using it to do some programming, and there's something wrong with the hard drive. We can move that virtual server to a different location, and it just keeps working. Then we can pull that hard drive out, replace it with a new one, and it moves back. So in terms of physical servers, we have very few physical servers. Most of our environment is in the cloud, but that's a challenge because now we have to replace that. And once you made that move to the cloud, you can't go back because it would be way too expensive to buy physical servers. Great question, though. And again, I think I'm way over my 20 minutes.
Thanks for your brevity, Rob.
Thank you so very much. I don't have anyone on my list for any questions, so we will accept the Technology Information Services report as information. Thank you, Associate Superintendent, for your thorough report. You always are very passionate about your delivery of the information you give us, so I very much appreciate that. So thank you very, very much. Moving on in the agenda to summer facility improvements. Colin Carney.
So line by line.
Yes, I've got a presentation, a picture of every single project that we did this year.
Hey,
great!
I want to look at the toilets.
I might do something like that next year.
Next year, yeah.
Okay. For this year, I'll just talk about what we did and why we did it, I guess. So these are two separate funding pockets. So for the infrastructure management, maintenance and renewal and capital maintenance renewal. The difference is capital maintenance has to be capital projects. We put some of our bigger projects under that, but basically just the same thing. We're just doing projects and improving our buildings. So I guess it wasn't a really busy year. It has been busier in the past couple of years, but we kind of dialed things back just to kind of monitor it, just kind of get build up a little bit of cushion, I guess. So we did what was necessary. So I did list what was done. You do notice some of the smaller dollar values. It's because tend to be because it was a project that was started in the previous year, and these are just a carryover. So if you see something that says like $1 or $10, it was probably because it was just a carryover, and it was reported mostly in the previous year. So I guess I just put it out there and ask for anybody has any questions, I guess, on any of the projects. So I don't go line by line on the projects. I would say that at the time of reporting this, we are 99%, we were complete, and just probably one more payment for the West Park Elementary building envelope. That project is basically completed. So that was the largest project that we completed last year.
Thank you very much. I've opened up the floor to trustees at this time. Vice Chair McCollum.
Thank you, Colin. Can you enlighten me on what the Pines gym renovation made money on?
Oh,
Because it's a 186 and it's in
It
brackets, so I'm
again.
thinking you got money back.
yeah, that probably was a carryover from the previous year, so it would have been just a credit.
That was it.
Trustee Gould.
I always like getting these reports and scanning the lists and stuff because it helps me or reminds me of the complexity of the system and this not very big beast that we're controlling, because we aren't like Edmonton, Calgary, whatever, in the sense of the complexity of it, but to look at and see the detail from the windows, the HVAC down to nuts and bolts and fobs and all that kind of stuff is really helpful, and it just sort of helps me understand where money goes, but also the complexity of this creature. And I thank you for that thoroughness.
Yeah, actually, when I said, it's always it's a busy time of year in September, but if I can put together some pictures, I will bring some. I did see a picture of one of the gym floors, and it's, when you go into a gym, you think it's just a hardwood floor sitting on concrete. There's actually like a 18-inch space below that, because that's what makes it kind of spring and stuff. And when you see it, you're like, oh, that's quite interesting to see. You never really think of that. So, come across any pictures of interest over the next year, I'll bring them.
Send me an email. Okay. I'll be gone.
I have Trustee Summers and then Trustee Waters.
Just to kind of expand on that, like, it was really helpful to take the tours of West Park Elementary and Hunting, but West Park Elementary, just in that stage where we walked through and seeing the envelope work being done on site, and then seeing those new windows being put in, it really helped to, I guess, solidify in my mind where this money is going, right? Like, and yeah, so just really helpful to take those tours.
Yeah, and I'd say most people don't get to see that because doing the work over the summer, the school is closed, and then everyone comes back, and some people probably don't even realize that there was work done at the school unless it's an obvious, changing out lights or a paint job or a floor. There's lots of work that gets done that people wouldn't even know that it happens.
Trustee Waters.
I'm just curious on, when I look at some of these, it says annual fire alarm inspections. For GHL, you've got $7,400, but other schools, even middle schools, are not. Is there something going on that, why is it more so much of one and then very little of others? If you do an inspection, it should be the same, shouldn't it?
No, it just depends on the size of the school, or if it needed to be done for the year.
No, I just looked at Normanville, for example, and I didn't see as very much there. It's an annual fire alarm inspection, $610. I was just trying to figure out.
It would just depend, I guess, on the work, the extent of the work that needs to be done.
Trustee Manning.
Yeah, so I appreciate the reports as well, and I don't understand most of what goes on in the stuff. But what I do look at is the numbers at the end of the report to indicate whether or not we were on budget. And it appears to me that we are. And we have a little.
That's right, that's why I mentioned that, because there is a bit of a cushion to roll over into this upcoming year to address some of the larger projects.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
I don't have anyone else on my speakers list. I just wanted to say thank you so very much for providing us with the summer facilities improvement report, and we will accept that for information. 10.6, Advanced Placement and International Baccalaureate Program Report, Deputy Dan Lauer.
Thank you very much. I provided my report to you. I'm just going to have to do a verbal summary of that report. So I'm pleased to share the highlights from the 24-25 Advanced Placement in IB International Baccalaureate Programs report. So at Hunting Hills High School, we saw 65 students participate in AP courses, running 99 exams across 8 different subjects. The results were outstanding. 97% of those students scored a 3 or higher, well above the world average of 66%. An example of Physics 1, our students achieved a perfect average score of 5 compared to global provincial averages around 3. In total, 39 exams earned perfect 5s and 14 students were recognized as AP scholars. At Lindsay Thurber Comprehensive High School, 68 students scored 106 international baccalaureate exams, with again the same 97% scoring a 3 or higher and outperforming global averages in 7 of their 8 subjects. IB has diploma candidates, and of those 68 students, 4 were diploma candidates. All of them achieved full diploma and averaged 5.4 out of 7, which equates to nearly 90% on the U of A scale when they take a look at those marks. So well above, again, the global average of 4.9 that we see. So students in those courses can earn university credits for those achievements in these programs. So, but beyond the numbers that you see in those programs, we have our schools focusing on improvement. Lindsay Thurber mentions that the board approved an international learning trip to Peru in 2026 to look at building the global citizenship. And Hunting Hills mentions that they are focusing on expanding their enrollment and trying to make those courses accessible to more students for success, while at the same time not compromising the excellence that the program is showing. So both schools have strengthened collaboration amongst their teachers to ensure consistency and high standards. So I think overall, this reaffirms that Medgar Public students are not only meeting but exceeding international benchmarks in our AP/IP programs. They're well prepared for post-secondary education and other global opportunities, in which demonstrates that our schools are doing really good work in support of our division's commitment to have academic excellence, global readiness, and so that's it. Our programs are doing well.
Thank you very much. I'll open the floor at this time for any questions of Deputy Dan Lauer with that report. Trustee Waters.
Please thank the staff involved for their hard work.
Seeing none others, we will accept that information, that report as information. Thank you so very much, Deputy Dan Lauer, for your report. We move on to 10.7, Trustee Community Engagement Report. There was not much added to this board memo as a result of currently being in election season. It is our board's practice to kind of take a step back and not be in the schools as much as we normally would be, to provide equal and fair opportunity to all candidates running in an election. So that is why there's only one item there. We move on to 10.8, Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, a number of different activities that are there. It's been a very quiet last week, so just lots of meetings, lots of updates with ministry, lots of updates with other superintendents across the province. So that's where the bulk of the work is right now. Lots of work just going around to our schools and working with our classified staff at this time to help support any questions that they may have as well. So.
I'll open the floor to trustees. If there's any questions of the superintendent's report. Seeing none, we will move on to board chair's reports. I do not have anything to report. We'll move on to correspondence. As per our last board meeting, a motion was passed to send a letter to several individuals in government regarding COVID vaccinations. So in our correspondence, you will see that those letters were sent out. We were then asked to provide a media response, and because once that motion was made at our table and then we received information that it was part of the conversation at the bargaining table, we felt it was not appropriate to engage in a conversation with media once it was part of ultimately negotiations. So therefore, we actually did not comment to media with those motions. Those letters had been sent off prior to learning that information, that it was on the negotiating table. Any questions? Seeing none, we will move on to celebrations. And I am going to start at Colin, and I'm going to go this way. Which way? This way, okay, good.
I think I'll pass.
What?
Well, since it's everyone, this is the last board meeting, I just leave it up to the rest of you.
Thank you. Erin?
I was going to pass, but I actually will take the opportunity to thank this Board of Trustees for their support with Loris and I in our Community Relations Department. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that. Very much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
I will say, what a pleasure it has been over the years to, sometimes recent years and for others, much longer years to serve with this board. We have been blessed with incredible senior administrators sitting at the table with us. It is always, a sad time at any time there's a possible final meeting, and I know some of us will not be returning. So thank you to everyone, and I do want to recognize the service of everyone who has served as a trustee.
Ditto, and I do want to thank everyone here for the amount I have learned over the last 4 years. It is it's pretty incredible. I would never have imagined that it goes so deep, and it's even deeper than what I know already. So thanks very much.
So I just would like a celebration or just a thank you. I think I was able to join in after your first year in this new role, and the board is very opening and welcoming and accepting, and I do so appreciate that. I think that there's a mystique that surrounds trustees and board members, and I know the people have taken time to get to know each one of you, find out how much you really care about teachers and kids, and that gets shown through your actions, and so, but I've also felt it just in this role here, so thank you very much for welcoming me, and I appreciate working with each one of you.
Yeah, I'll echo that, a thank you, and thank you to those of our departing trustees, Matt and Bev, and then a good luck to all of our trustees that are seeking again to see again.
Thank you. I would like to celebrate Red Deer Public School Division. Certainly right now we are in very difficult times, and I think our communications department and individuals at this table, as well as senior admin, have done a really great job communicating how difficult this is for absolutely every single one of us and what people are going through, as we're not allowed to comment and really vocalize where we are with regards to that relationship piece. So just celebrating everyone in Red Deer Public. This is a very difficult time. I think people have been respectful in our school division, and I think that goes to the relationships that have been built. So just celebrating Red Deer Public, and then I'm going to take a second one, and I am going to celebrate my mentor that is no longer going to be joining us, and the legacy that Trustee Bev Manning has ultimately brought over the last 30 years to Red Deer Public School Division. I stepped into this role after you, and it has been big shoes to fill. You will be greatly missed in our school division. You have brought a wealth of knowledge and grace and kindness to this room, to this school division. Your wisdom has been planted in numerous seeds across Red Deer Public School Division, and you will be greatly missed. So thank you so very much for everything that you have done. It's incredible for 30 years of service to Red Deer Public.
Well said. Well said. There's been a lot of gratitude passed around this board table during these celebrations, and it's also been acknowledged those that are outside of the board table right now, and that's where I want to give a lot of my kudos and high fives to, all the individuals that are impacted by the strike and everything that everybody is going through to try to make it not as traumatic as it could be. I want the best for our students, and I want this to be done as soon as possible. And I thank everybody who is involved in these negotiations, and who are at the schools, and who are at home, and everything. This is just, as some of you know, this is the first time there's ever been a strike in Red Deer Public. And I was very honored to always say that to other colleagues, that we have such a great relationship with our teachers. And, I thank them for everything that they're doing. And I wish everyone luck in the upcoming election.
Trustee Goldberg.
One and done, that's me. And I wanted to say that I'm wonderfully surprised at this experience that I've had. I've cried in my pillow, I've screamed, I've thrown things against the wall. I remember one of the important things, at least for me, a lesson that I learned when we came in some of our early readings and stuff, was that you're coming in and you leave yourself at the door. And I am happy to report that I've been able to take new information, change my mind, and move in positions that I wouldn't have done before. So I might have come in all stuffed up and all ready to go and say, okay, it's going to go my way. And I've liked, in a sense, the humbleness of that lesson that I've gotten, that has improved my ability to communicate with other people, stepping back a little bit, beginning to listen. Sometimes, of course, I'm not going to be changing my mind or my position, but from the bottom of my heart, I know that I've come into a place in the world where I can listen to new information and change my mind, and not feel like I have to be proud and stand up someplace and hold my flag no matter what. So I appreciate the hard lessons and the good lessons that I've gotten around this table in the last 4 years. The other thing that for me is going to be a lasting memory and celebration is our superintendent. And in particular, first of all, I love this idea of the relationships, right? You've brought forward and remind us of all the time, remind me of anyway. But the other thing is data. And this idea of data, because I used to go as a human being, I'd sort of flash in, have my mind, think I know everything that's going to happen. And then suddenly, now I'm asking myself, I'm even stopping myself in conversations with people when I'm getting all puffed up and thinking, okay, I know the answer to this. Then we'll have a conversation. I'll say, okay, I actually need to look at some data, find something that's going to back up my position. So I'm not flying off of the handle in the way that I did before. So for me, listening to the reports over the last 4 years, looking at this, building brick by brick of a foundation, has been, I'm going to have to say, transformational for me. So I have to thank you and celebrate you. Okay. And your team, of course, you guys.
Thank you. Trustee Manning.
Thank you. If you'll bear with me for just a moment, I had to write it down because I realize that we're in a really challenging situation, and my heart really goes out to everybody who's impacted by the situation that we're in. However, I would like to take a moment to thank my community for allowing me to serve them as a trustee for the past 30 years. This is my last meeting, my last time to sit around this board table, and I have much, much to be thankful for. I have had the opportunity to work with 6 amazing superintendents, not just this one.
Like
but
the queen.
6. And I need to mention them here. Dave Blacker was one of the most kind-hearted men I have ever met. When I was a brand new trustee, he showed me grace and he helped me learn what was most important about trusteeship, and that was how we treat one another. He always led with kindness. Len Luters was a strong man of great vision. He had many ideas and he wasn't afraid to take risks. He did so with a great deal of thought, and he always managed to keep student learning first and foremost in his mind. Don Falk was such an incredibly hard worker. He was so great at communicating, and he also had a really great sense of humor, mainly because he enjoyed his work so much. He was incredibly thorough in his decision-making, and he shared all of that data and information with the board. Pete Langstrat was strongly focused on providing every student with an opportunity for success, and he led our division through some critical conversations about equity and inclusion. He truly kept us focused on what was good for kids. Stu Henry was an incredibly organized and very critical thinker. He worked closely with the board to ensure the board's vision was both well thought out and well executed. And that brings us to you, Chad. I can't thank you enough for your leadership over the past 4 years. These have been some of the most challenging years we have ever faced because of the increasing division in our society and in our world. You have been kind, you have led with integrity, and there is no quit in you. You have been there through every storm. Each time you steadied the boat, put the oars back in the water, and kept us moving forward. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Along with all the other superintendents that I mentioned, you have exemplified integrity in all that you do, commitment to our staff, to our students and parents, and you have worked tirelessly to implement this board's vision. All of these superintendents have had tremendous support from other senior administration, and you know who you are. Over the years, I have been incredibly blessed to learn from those amazing administrators. Sitting in on interviews has given me a wealth of education. There are too many to mention. And I would be remiss if I did not also mention the many trustee colleagues with whom I have served over the years. They have included some amazing people, including both Gail Holland and Bill Christie, who both passed away during their service with this board. Some of all of the names I mentioned I've served with, and they're an incredibly great list. Cindy Jeffries, Deb Pickering, Lauren Goddard, Doug McKay, Lawrence Lee, Dr. Bill Stubing, Lenore Hodgkinson, David Hardy, Diane Kubinek, Dick Lemke, Laurette Woodward, and those currently sitting around this table, Jim, Kathy, Angela, Nicole, Diane, and Matt. I can't thank you enough. And there have been so many central office staff, including but not limited to special mention, Peggy and Mandy, who have both given me more chocolate than I will ever be able to pay back. I have also had the opportunity to work with countless other trustees throughout the province who have helped me grow and develop as a leader. To these amazing people in both the PSBA and ASBA, I am forever grateful. Anytime I was stuck, anytime I needed help, anytime I had doubts or questions, or just needed some encouragement, there was always somebody to turn to. There are times when life just gives you a gift. and it can't be measured by any standard. This is what trusteeship has been for me. It has just been an incredible gift that I cannot describe. A gift for me that has lasted for 30 years. I am so thankful. Trustees are an incredibly important conduit between our community's collective voice and how that voice is reflected in our education plan. Year after year, our community has spoken about how important it is that our schools maintain a value-centered learning environment. I've tried to respect those values in all that I have done, and also respect the rights of parents. I leave with a heart that is incredibly full. The future will hold many challenges for the new board. My only words of advice are listen to one another. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Be reasonable with everyone you meet. Remember your job and your position. Serve with integrity, honesty, and transparency. And above all, measure every decision on whether or not it's good for students. Right, Jim? My final thank you goes to God and to my 3 girls. God blessed me with 3 amazing daughters, and without those 3 girls, life would definitely have taken a whole different turn for me. To Lisa, Susie, and Kim, thank you for always believing in your mom and supporting me. You are the most important accomplishment of my life. You are my motivation, and I love you. Thank you.
You will be greatly missed. With that, I will end and adjourn the final meeting of the last 4-year term and wish everyone the best who is running and those that are not seeking re-election the best in your retirements. Clear.
Matt, you're done. Matt, you're done.
Thank you.
Not done till the
Oh,
20th.
I've seen this.
I know.
I know.
I'll still be passing around emails for you.
Chad, who gets to tell Ron about the